And the next one, please, could I have Ayla?
Oh, wait, is it me?
Ayla.
Yes. When they got up on Saturday morning, there was no fire in the kitchen, no breakfast in the dining room, and no mother anywhere to be seen. Mercy on us, what has happened? Cried Jo, staring about her in dismay. Meg ran upstairs and soon came back again, looking relieved but rather bewildered, and a little ashamed. Mother isn't sick, only very tired. She says she is going to sit quietly in her room all day and let us do the best we can. It's a very queer thing for her to do. She doesn't act a bit like herself. But she said it's been a hard week for her, so we mustn't grumble but take care of ourselves.
What is the first sign that this is an unusual morning? Just the one answer, please.
Excuse me.
Yes?
Can it be two answers?
Just the one. And the majority of you have answered that there was no fire in the kitchen. And the clue in the keyword here in our question is, what is the first sign? Thank you to those. Oops. And we have the same extract, but a different question. Why does Meg suggest that their mother's behaviour is very unusual? Have a look at the options. I'll give you a couple of minutes. Just the one answer. And our clue is it's a very queer thing for her to do. She doesn't act a bit like herself here. It's very unusual, which suggests that she doesn't normally get tired. The majority of you again chose A. Well done. Adrielle, could I have you to read this next extract, please? Adrielle, would you like to read?
Never mind, I'll get the dinner and be servant, you be mistress. Keep your hand nice, see company and give orders, said Jo, who knew still less than Meg about culinary affairs. This obliging offer was gladly accepted. Margaret retired to the parlour, which she hastily put in order by whisking the litter under the sofa and shutting the blinds to save the trouble of dusting. Jo with perfect faith in her own powers immediately went out in the office, inviting Laurie to dinner. You better see what you've got before you think of having a company, said Meg, when informed of the hospitable but rash act. Oh, there's corned beef and plenty of potatoes. I shall get some asparagus and lobster for a relish, as Hannah says. We'll have lettuce and make a salad. I don't know how, but the book tells. I'll have blancmange and strawberries for dessert, and coffee too, if you want to be elegant.
Thank you. Why might Meg suggest that inviting guests could be rash? So we're looking for the use of that quotation there as it is used in the text. have a read around, see if we can find any clues why Meg might suggest that. Just one answer again. And the answer is indeed A. Our clue is you better see what you have got before you think of having company. And then they're being advised that it might be quite a rash act, means that you are being too sudden. Okay, next extract. I'm just looking for hands up there. Could I have Calvin, please?
He held a white cloth. It was a serviette that he had brought with him. Over the lower part of his face, so that his mouth and jaws were completely hidden, and that was the reason of his muffled voice. But it was not that which startled Miss Hall. It was the fact that all his forehead above his blue glasses was covered by a white bandage, and that another covering his ears, leaving not a scrap of his nose exposed, excepting only his pink, peaked nose. It was a bright pink and shiny, just as it had been at first. He wore a dark brown velvet jacket with a high black linen lined collar turned up about his neck. The thick black hair, escaping as it could below and between the cross bandages, projected in the curious tilted horns, giving him the strangest appearance conceivable. This muffled and bandaged head was so unlike what she had anticipated that for a moment she was rigid.
Thank you very much. The man's hair is described as sticking through the bandages in curious tails and horns. So we find it, first of all, as it is quoted. So let's have a look at it. Curious tails and horns, there it is. What does this image suggest about the man's character? And this is a perception that we are getting. This is Mrs. Hall's perception of this man and her reaction to him. So we're honing in on our empathy skills here, looking at her reaction and what that perhaps suggests about the man's character. So those are the techniques that you're using here. I'll give you a couple of minutes to have a good look at this one.
What does vain mean?
Well, indeed. Vain obviously wouldn't be able to tell you in the actual 11 plus itself. But it's something that if you are self-obsessed, you think that you are very good.
Okay.
So if we're looking at the reaction of Mrs. Hall, so the thick black hair escaping as it could below and between the cross bandages, projected in curious tails and horns. Now these are interesting. This is interesting language to use. And remember, this is her reaction to the presence of this man. Tails and horns, giving him the strangest appearance conceivable. So there's something very, very strange, not natural about his appearance. And this muffled and bandaged head was so unlike what she had anticipated that for a moment she was rigid. So her reaction to him is that of shock, so much that it is actually making her stand like a statue. So this suggests that she is intimidated by him and that he may be connected to something devilish, perhaps. There's something perhaps quite sinister about his appearance, and obviously the reaction of Mrs. Hall. Okay, could I have Edward Bradshaw, please, to read?
Mrs. Hall lit the fire and left him there while she went to prepare him a meal with her own hands. A guest to stop at Iping in the winter time was an unheard of piece of luck, let alone a guest who was no haggler, and she was resolved to show herself worthy of her good fortune. As soon as the bacon was well under way and Milly, her lympathetic maid, had been brisked up a bit by a few deftly chosen expressions of contempt, she carried the cloth, plates and glasses into the parlour and began to lay them with the utmost eclat. Although the fire was burning up briskly, she was surprised to see that her visitor still wore his hat and coat, standing with his back to her and staring out of the window at the falling snow in the yard. His gloved hands were clasped behind him, and he seemed to be lost in thought. She noticed that the melting snow that still sprinkled his shoulders dripped upon her carpet. "Can I take your hat and coat, sir?" she said, "and give them a good dry in the kitchen?"
Thank you very much. Mrs. Hall went to prepare him a meal with her own hands. What does this suggest? Okay, we've got quite a few people with the correct answer. Quite a difficult one. Now, we're reading around this as well. So a guest to stop at Iping in the wintertime was an unheard of piece of luck. So this is something that she's pleased about. She's trying to make a good impression. She's doing this. We also learn that she does have a maid, but she's wanting to do this all by herself so that she can impress her guest. She wants to make sure her guest is impressed. There we go. I'm just checking through. A lot of you did also say D.